today's discussion is about gaps. So this is one of the frequent question which people ask me during my consultation calls, or I have a lot of gap in my career. Can I still get the job? Or sir, I have breaks in my career on and off. I was doing my job. Can I still get a job? So this concept of gap works a bit different in different countries. In India, it works a bit different. In Canada, it works a bit different. In US, it works a bit different. So what we are trying to discuss today is about Canada. Okay, um, so yeah, the number one question is, can we get a job in Canada? When I say job, I mean IT jobs, because we are going to discuss only about IT job dynamics here. So can we get a job in Canada with gaps in our career? Okay. So in Canada, recruiters are generally not really bothered about gaps. Okay. You will still be asked question about gap, but if you have a gap, it is never going to be a deal breaker. Okay, remember that. But many people come with an assumption, oh, since I have gaps, I can't get job in Canada, so better not search for an IT job in Canada. I will stick to doing some non-IT job or some survival job. That is a wrong thought process. In Canada, it is okay to have gaps because the market is in such a way that when you are working in some job, when you lose that job for any reason, you will not get the job the very next day or very next month. You will have a lot of gap in between, maybe like 2 to 3 months in the best case, or sometimes even 6 months to 1 year in the worst case. So it is still okay. So every recruiter understands that, every company understands that, but how do we project ourselves to ensure that this gap doesn't cause any hindrance in our job search campaign? So those are the things which we will discuss today. Okay, so as I mentioned, uh, it is still okay to have the gap, but recruiters will still ask you the reason for the gap. So what are the standard reasons that you as the job seekers can tell? So if it is a woman applicant, female applicant, then the standard reason, if you have about 2 years, 3 years, or even 5 years, or even 10 years gap in your career, you can still quote the reason as your maternity reasons, or taking care of the kids. These are the standard reasons that can attract no counter questions from the recruiters. So you can still quote this reason. So I have kids, so I had to take a gap. I was waiting till he completes 5 years so that he can go to school, and then I can concentrate back on my career. Very valid reason if your gap is more than 5 years or 6 years. If the gap is only 1 year, same reason. I had to take care of my pregnancy. So post pregnancy, I joined the job. That is also a very valid reason. If the gap is 10 years also, it is fine. I had back to back deliveries. So as and when the first kid was born, and he reached 2 to 3 years, so immediately I had the second kid, so I had to take care of them. So the gap was 10 years. So whatever may be the reason, or maybe the gap, you can still quote pregnancy as a reason. Okay, that is one. For males, what is the reason that you can quote as a gap? So some of the reasons that you can quote about gap for males, especially, is oh yeah, I spent some time to start to doing some business. So I tried to do some business for 3 4 years. I was not successful. That is the reason why I had to come back to my job. So which is the reason why I had a lot of 4 to 5 years of gaps. So that is also a valid reason that you can quote for male. Male should not quote paternity as one of the reason, because most of the recruiters don't digest that fact. Oh, I took 3 4 years gap to take care of my kids is not a valid reason that recruiters hear from male voice, right? If the woman quotes that, that is perfectly all right. But if male quotes that, they might not take that as a valid reason. But if you are have tried to run some business and burnt your fingers in that and wanted to wind up that and start resuming your job search, that is still a valid reason that males can quote. And there is I mean, on and off, there will be some other genuine reasons like health reasons, or like you met with an accident, so you took some time to uh, take care of the health and restore all your positive energy to start doing the job search. That might be so. If you really met with an accident, or if you really have any health concerns due to which you got billed to explain about this gap, is maternity reasons for females, and business reasons for male. But what are the reasons that uh, a female who did not have kids can show? That is also another question that many of the girls ask me. Oh, I was not married, I did not have kids, so what reason can I quote? So in such case, you can quote marriage as one of the reasons, right? You can still quote that, yeah, so I had to, from career, I had to end up getting married. So I had to do a lot of travel back and forth from Canada to India, due to which 1 year or 2 years gap has occurred. But this formula will work only if the gap is maybe like 1 to 2 years max. But if it is more than 2 years, I think the concept of a marriage or a wedding might not show as a legit reason for the gap. But if it is like even 2 years might be difficult. If the gap is 1 year, you can say, oh, I took this gap because I wanted to get married. At home, I am the only person who has to take care of all the responsibilities for the wedding. So I consciously took a gap to, take care of all the wedding activities, invitations, and then post marriage, I came back with my spouse, and now I'm searching for the job. So it will work for 1 year, or sometimes even for 2 years. But 1 year will be a very solid reason for this kind of a reason. So if you have kids, then maternity. If you don't have kids, then your marriage is can be a strong reason to explain the gap. But again, even if you have this gap, it is not going to be of any deal breaker for your job search. Remember that. Because many people whom I came across, they were under the impression, oh, I have a gap, I don't think I can get a job. It is completely false. You can still get a job. Canadian companies and recruiters are not really worried about having gaps. Sometimes, between one company and another company, there will be a gap of 4 5 months. People try to fill that gap. Yeah, that is not needed, right? So it is perfectly all right to have a gap. If they ask you what is the reason for this 3 4 months gap or 5 6 months gap, you can say, oh, I was laid off in my previous company, and it took some time for me to get another job. So which is why you have seen the gap of 3 4 months or 5 6 months. And it's a perfect reason, and recruiters can also understand. So don't try to, put up some fake experience in that 4 5 months gap to say that there is no gap, because you will end up doing some mistakes in handling that fake experience, and that will end up as a problem when it comes to background check. So why to, when you have genuine experience, just to fill that gap, don't show some fake experience. It is okay to have that gap, right? So sometimes, some people, they come from non-IT industry to IT industry. For example, you might have worked as an accountant for the last 10 years, and now you wanted to come to IT in some role, right? So what people try to do is they try to show last 10 years of accounting profession as an IT experience, thinking that if you don't show anything, that will show as a gap from their studies till the current job, and that might end up as a problem. No, that is also wrong. In IT, anybody can come from non-IT to IT. IT embraces professionals from all other professions. That is the beauty of IT. So, and in Western countries like Canada and US, you can still, start your career afresh in IT at the age of 40 or 50. Nobody can say no. So you can gladly explain that. Oh, yeah, you need not put it in the resume. I mean, the last 10 years of experience which you have in accounting, for example, you need not put it on the resume, because when you're searching for a job, you always have to show the relevant experience. If you show your accounting experience and trying for an IT job, that is going to be a problem. But better not show that accounting experience. Just to show that you are a newbie in IT, and you have done so and so projects, you have done so and so internships or co-ops, different co-ops, and then you can show some projects to showcase your skill set. That is enough. But if you add your experience from your studies till date, whatever all non-IT jobs you have done, if you list them on your resume will end up becoming a deal breaker for your job search campaign. So if you have other experiences, don't show non-IT experience on your profile in with an intention to fill up the gap, right? So don't show them. If you feel that, oh, if we don't show, it will show as a gap and it will be a problem, no. So obviously recruiters will try to call you saying that, hey, from studies till date, I see you, I don't get what you have done, so can you please explain what have you done from so and so year to so and so year? You can tell that you worked previously as an accountant or as a financial analyst or some bank job, and it is not completely into IT. Since it is not an IT work, not put that on my resume. So they can understand that. It is, as I mentioned, recruiters are okay to understand that you are coming from non-IT to IT background. And we did this experiment with so many people. We had a lot of pharma people, a lot of people from medical profession who joined NCPL, and we did not show their pharma experience or healthcare or medicine experience on the resume. But when recruiters asked why there is a gap in your career, then we told them to tell them that, yeah, I came from a pharma background, and I have come from some medical background. I was a doctor in the past, but I wanted to come to IT. So that always creates a very positive impact. Recruiters like people coming from non-IT to IT background, but of course for junior positions, right? So do not ever try to fill your resume with all the jobs you have done in you know non-IT sector. I have seen many resumes where they apply for job as a data scientist or cyber security, but they mention the job that they have done in Tim Hortons or in KFCs. So the resume obviously becomes messy. Nobody wants to take people working in KFC. You can't show KFC as an experience to get a job as a cybersecurity engineer or a data scientist, right? It will be a lot of problem. So better not show that. And they call you to ask what is the reason for the gap, then you may just say, oh, I was doing some survival job to meet my ends, but otherwise I don't have any experience. I did not search for any IT job. Now I have decided to search for the IT job. I'm trying for junior positions, which is the reason why I have submitted the resume for this job. It is perfectly all right, right? So When it comes to other countries, like for example, when it comes to India, right? In India, if you have a gap, then because in India, people get job instantly. The notice period is 2 months or 3 months. During that notice period, people can search for next job. They can always get the next job immediately after the previous job, right? So if you have a gap, then Indian recruiters or HRs won't like that, because if you are not able to get the job immediately after your previous job, then there is some problem somewhere. So it makes more sense in India to fill the gap, but it doesn't create the same impact in Canada. So in India, you should not have gaps at all. If you have gaps, you are not going to get any calls from recruiters. But in Canada, it is okay to have gaps, and it is okay if you justify the asked reason for your gaps, and then you can gladly get a job in Canada, even with gaps or even without any experience in non-IT justifying. But you have to justify, the story has to be built very strongly, right? Do not try to create story when you're talking, but try to prepare that story even before you start your job search campaign. Think yourself what the recruiter might possibly ask if there is a gap in your career. Then try to prepare the answer well ahead. If you try to cook the answer randomly when the recruiter asks, then it is going to be a problem, because if you quick on the spot, if you quick the reason on the spot, then you might end up in some mistakes. Then it will end up uh, some cross examination from recruiter. You might tell something right, you might tell something wrong. So it will mess up the whole discussion. Instead, prepare that reason for gaps. Prepare a very solid reason. It should be a very strong reason that recruiter should not cross question you, right? um, and then go for submitting the applications for jobs. Don't go without preparation. Okay, so this is the point I wanted to discuss, because roughly about 30 to 40 people book consultation calls with me on a day-to-day basis, and half of the people uh, in those consultation calls come with an apprehension that, oh yeah, I have a gap, I'm not sure if I'm a good fit for the IT industry, so I do not want to go for IT, but somebody told me that you can help me, so that is the reason why I joined this consultation calls. I do a lot of brainwashing to them, saying that gap is not a big issue, it is okay to have a gap. I thought of capturing all the common issues that people are facing and discuss it in a webinar, so that I can address larger audience in one single shot. So now I leave the floor to you all to ask me questions. Confine the questions only related to the gaps. If you have any specific queries or generic queries related to the gaps, let us brainstorm and discuss. Okay, does anybody has? Yeah, Rekha.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, Rambab Garu. I'm Rekha. So I have a long career gap. I have completed my MCA in India in 2013. So almost it's going to 11 years. So how should I fill the gap and is it's yeah, how
Yeah.
should I manage the gap and
And why did you get that gap?
yeah, of course, because of marriage and a kid.
Yeah, so you'll tell the same reason. Oh, I got immediately after my last job or after the studies. I don't know what you have done previously, but you can say that immediately after studies, I got marriage done, and immediately after marriage, I got my kids. So it took some time for me to take care of the kids. Now kids are going to the school, so now I'm in a position to start my or resume my career, which is the reason why I'm searching for a job. This is the solid reason that you can tell them.
Okay, but even though it's 10 years, they won't consider, right? Um,
Even if it is 10 years or 20 years, not a problem at all.
okay.
Yeah. Some people ask me, sir, I never had kids, but I got gaps. I'm married. but my gap is 10 years, but I did not have kids. So what reason should I tell? So recruiters are not going to come and check your home whether you have kids or not.
Okay.
So you can still quote
Okay.
maternity and kids as a reason, even if you don't have kids.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Again, as I mentioned to you, this formula will not work in India. In India, if you have same 10 years gap,
Okay.
then people are not going to even to pick up your application. So you have to fill that gap somehow. But in Canada, since majority of this discussion is in for Canada market, it is perfectly okay to have a gap of 10 years. And especially if you are a female, you can gladly tell that uh, I got married and had kids immediately. So I was waiting for my kids to go to school. So now I wanted to start your career. Uh, or you had worked in the past. After that, you had 10 years gap, and now you can say you're resuming your career.
Okay.
Yeah. Karthik,
Yeah, hi sir. Yeah, actually, I have a career gap. Thing is, I got laid off in last January 2023. But my primary thing is I'm focusing to get a job in Canada. But reason is I have just 1 year work permit left in Canada. I'm not sure whether I'll be getting a job or not. But primarily I'm focusing it. But if I didn't get a job in even that 1 year, I'm planning to go back to India. Just wanted to make sure what might be the reason. Can I explain over there? It might be the career gap for more than 2 years in India. That's it, sir.
oh, then if there is a gap here in Canada in this 1 year work permit, and you wanted to go back to India, so that can we show that 1 year gap or not? That is your question, right? How do
Yeah,
we
sir.
assess that gap?
Yeah, but primary thing is I'm looking for a job here. But if I didn't get any job, then I'm just reconsidering
Yeah. If
to
at
take.
all
Yeah,
you go back to India, if there is a gap here, how should I answer?
yeah,
Correct.
right, sir. Yeah.
Well, in such case, you have to fill that gap
Okay,
because
only
uh,
option is to fill the gap.
yeah, because in India they don't like people with
Mm-hmm.
have gap. India has a lot of people who are ready to do the job. So if why do they pick up people who have gap when they have hundreds of people available without any gap,
Okay.
right? So that's why instead of showing the gap, you have to fill that gap. There are different dynamics, showing Canadian experience in India
Mm-hmm.
and bypass the background check related things. Maybe I will conduct one seminar on that. But the answer to your question is you cannot show the gap. You still have to fill the gap somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
show the gap in India,
Mm-hmm.
quoting that you did not get any job in Canada and hence you came back to India. They will consider you as an unsuccessful person. They don't want to take unsuccessful people into jobs. So you are forced to fill that gap.
Okay, okay. But I mean, one thing is actually, that in Canada they are running payroll kind of stuff. So I just wanted to make sure there are many people like they are running just payrolls. But example, if we go with that kind of process, example, if we get a job back in India after a year, will that be an issue? I mean, if they go for a background check, will there be any
But
issue
it's a
or?
valid payroll, so which means you will have a real pay stubs, you will have a real T4.
Yes, sir.
You
Yeah.
can show that as a real experience.
Okay, okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, yeah. Chandrasekhar.
Hi, sir. Good morning. You said for the female, for the women, they can say that they married and they have kids. That's where they have a career gap like that. For gents, what you can suggest that you can say?
You can say you started a business, you ran
Okay,
it for a few years, and then you ended up in loss, which is why you're searching for a job.
okay,
Yeah. Or if there is anything complementary, for example, um, I mean, there is no one single formula to say, but these the reasons which I mentioned are very general reasons.
okay, sir.
Business is one of a solid reason for male people. Otherwise, you can say that you worked in a previous. You can choose the surrounding areas. For example, if you are searching for a job as a business analyst in Canada,
Okay.
the reason that you can show is you worked as a banker back home.
Back home. Yeah.
That is a very solid reason. So they will
Yes.
at least know that you have banking
Banking
experience.
domain knowledge. Yeah.
So if you say you worked in some what kind of a job you worked in, accounting,
Accounting. Yeah.
yeah, then it might not be a solid reason.
Yes.
Yeah, so choose the reason which is very surrounding to the area of the role that you are trying. But otherwise, if you don't find any reason, the standard reason you can say is business. Any other questions from anyone?
Hello, sir. Very good afternoon. My name is Kavita. So I have a question. Like I've been working in RBC as insurance and bank advisor. But my question is, I'm studying data analyst now to transition into IT. But yes, to fill up the gaps, as you said, we can say maternity and marriage reasons. But how do we transition without Canadian experience?
Transition without Canadian experience.
In that IT field?
See, you can still, if you're searching for a job as a data analyst,
Yeah.
okay, there are two ways you can project your Canadian experience. One,
Mm-hmm.
you can show that you are starting your data analyst job afresh, which
Okay.
means all the past experience that you have as a
Mm-hmm.
banker or a
Mm-hmm.
finance in the bank, that will
Mm-hmm.
become irrelevant. Or
Yes.
else you can say that you have worked in the bank as a financial analyst. Now I want to become a data analyst.
Okay.
So financial analyst is generally a non-IT job, and
Okay.
but for data analyst it will work out. Financial analyst becoming data
Data
analyst,
analyst will work.
you will end up becoming a financial data analyst in the future.
Okay. Okay.
That will help. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you can completely ignore your banking experience and
Mhm.
showcase your data analyst experience as a fresher. These are the
So,
two ways you can project.
so you mean like don't put any experience, irrelevantly, just show us a gap and fill the gap as you said, right?
Yeah,
Reasons,
yeah,
and then go as a fresher.
yeah.
So
That is
this
one way to
chance,
project.
yes, yes.
There are
Okay.
several ways to project your application. One
Mm-hmm.
way is you can still show the gap, and another
Mm-hmm.
way is you can still say that you have worked as a financial analyst. These are the two ways you can show. There is no single formula for each and every one, and strategy keeps changing.
Okay. So you're saying because without like a fresher, it's difficult to get a job right here in Canada. They ask Canadian experience,
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, for you, what I would suggest is show as a financial analyst and data analyst.
Transition like that.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Ayush.
Yeah, hi sir. Good afternoon. So just wanted to know, in terms of filling the gap, what documents, supporting documents we need to showcase all these gaps, whatever we have, if we have 3 years of gap.
In Canada?
Yeah.
In Canada, they generally don't ask for documents, but these days they are asking. But in the past, they just ask you to give the contact person name and email ID. They just used to call the person in that company and verify your employment. But now these days they're asking both the contact person information and also sometimes the letter of employment, sometimes the pay stubs, sometimes your T4, and sometimes your ROE, record of employment.
Okay, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, Kirti.
Hi, Rambabu garu. Good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What my question is, I'm not working since 2020 because of back-to-back two kids. I was working before in a non-IT background. So if I keep my non-experience in from 2020 in my resume, is that affect?
If you keep non-IT experience from 2020.
No experience. I mean, like I'm not working since 2020, as I said. So if I put that in my resume, so is that affect in my resume? Like they
No,
pick
not affect.
my-
Since the gap, so the gap is before 2020 or after 2020?
After 2020. Like since 4 years, I'm not working because of
Because of the kids, right?
two kids, yeah. Yeah.
You
Maternity.
put the same reason. So let's say before 2020, what did you used to do?
I was working in a pharmacy.
Pharmacy. So there is a gap there. All the pharmacy experience, obviously, you can't show for an IT job.
Yeah.
So there's a gap there, and the gap continued. So before 2020, also there is a gap. I mean,
Yes.
IT gap.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the gap is from the time you start your pharmacy job till date.
Yeah.
So you can show that whole gap as a reason for your maternity and kids.
Okay. They like my resume will pick up if I keep like that.
Yeah.
The recruit asks any questions like you don't have any non-IT experience. I mean IT experience. Low. Those kind of questions they can ask me. Like in that case, how can I manage?
Yeah, if you don't have much experience, then the number of calls will be lesser than having some experience. But whatever limited calls that you get, they will still ask you the question, what is the reason for your gap? I see a lot of gap from the time you finished your studies till date. You can say maternity reasons, and you can say, yeah, my kids are grown up now, they're going to school. Now I wanted to start my IT career, which is the reason why I applied for a junior position in your company.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Harish, what is your question?
Nothing much actually. Like from December, I'm not working here in India. As previously discussed, actually I have a US visa. Actually, it's in admin process with the DMG. I think I'm quite audible. So yeah, so actually due to some medical reasons, from December I'm not working. So in India, I need to fill the gap, but I reached to regarding the employment regarding in US, sir, if you remember.
Yeah.
So, so how to manage in US? Sir? Like, I know that we are expanding in US also. Then we are looking forward.
Yeah,
So,
USA and Canada, you can follow the same strategy.
so for the gap of like now 5 months actually, 5 months I have a gap.
Yeah, you need not show. If the gap you wanted to show in the US, you need not fill it. You can still show it as a gap.
So these action I will play like that I can say this.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. So thanks for joining the webinar. As I mentioned, I have posted the link for my calendar in the chat messages of this conversation of this call. So you can schedule a call if you wanted to talk one-on-one in my calendar, and we can discuss in detail for 30-40 minutes, understand your career profile and suggest a right career pathway for you. So hopefully this is useful, and we will come back with another topic next week, same time. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Happy weekend. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Same to you. Thank you.